Welcome to the JCPS MTSS training on the Feedback Toolkit with a focus on the high-yield practice opportunities to respond. I'm Stephanie Roberts, an MTSS Engagement Resource Teacher with Elementary Zone 1.
Hi, I'm April Bemker, MTSS Engagement Resource Teacher with the Accelerated Improvement Schools, or AIS Zone, working with middle and high schools.
Please take a moment to type the case-sensitive bit.ly into your web browser. This will allow you access to all the links for the activities offered throughout the presentation. Here you will see the 6 components that make up the MTSS department, or multi-tiered systems of support. MTSS focuses on overall school improvement by aligning resources and support for both teachers and students. We provide multiple levels of support for learners that address academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs, and produce professional development that is aligned with schools and the district as a whole. JCPS has 4 departments within MTSS as shown on this concept map. MTSS Academics, directed by Donna Lawson, supports schools with a focus on Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions and support. The MTSS Behavior Department is directed by Sandra Hensel, and they support schools in implementing positive behavior interventions and supports, PBIS, and restorative practices. The MTSS Re-Engagement Department supports students who are transitioning back to their home schools from Minor Daniels Academy and Breckenridge Metropolitan. Our department is the MTSS Engagement Department. The goal of the MTSS Engagement Department is to increase student achievement by equipping teachers with high-yield pedagogical practices to maximize student engagement. Both the Re-Engagement and Engagement departments are directed by Dr. Naomi Brahim. These are the 6 MTSS toolkits. By clicking the toolkit image, you will have access to the MTSS department webpage as well as each toolkit. Now that you are more familiar with the MTSS department, let's dive into one of the foundational practices for teaching, feedback. Feedback is information provided by an agent about aspects of one's performance or understanding. Feedback is the most powerful when it is coming from the students to the teacher. When teachers seek or are at least open to feedback from students as to what students know, what they understand, and when they have misconceptions, the teaching and learning becomes more synchronized and powerful. The high-yield practice associated with feedback is opportunities to respond, or OTR. An OTR is the interaction between a teacher's academic prompt and a student's response. The teacher asks a question or gives a prompt, and the student or students respond. The student response then allows the teacher to not only formatively assess student learning, but also provide specific feedback to the student. Successful implementation of OTRs is observed when teachers are providing frequent OTRs throughout a variety of student responses. There are 3 particular types: individual, peer-to-peer, and whole group. Within these categories, students can respond verbally, non-verbally, or written. Within this session, we will develop a deeper understanding of the different types of opportunities to respond. The success criteria for today will be to reflect on benefits of using opportunities to respond to re-engage students in the classroom, and to identify opportunities to respond to integrate into instruction in order to accelerate student learning. When re-engaging students and accelerating learning, there are key components to an accelerated lesson. While using OTRs in a purposeful manner throughout to engage students, check for that student understanding, formatively assess and adjust your instruction as needed. These components include generate thinking and purpose, clearly communicate learning goals, scaffold and practice essential skills, dig into the new content, and conduct formative assessments frequently.
Check out this brief video and think about the different response strategies being implemented.
let's take a look at the definition for setting. It says, time and place in which the story occurs. Time and place in which the story occurs. Let's read this together. Setting, time and place in which the story occurs. Let's clarify that. So when I'm reading a story and I'm thinking about setting, I'm going to be reading about time. Everybody point to your watch. Time and place. Location in the story. B's, tell A's. What is setting in a complete sentence? You have 5 seconds. Go. 3, 2, 1. What is setting? Josue.
Series of events that make up a story.
Okay, that is the definition for plot, Josue. I'm actually looking for the definition for setting. What is setting?
Oh, the definition for setting is actually time and place in which a story takes place.
Class, is that correct?
Yes.
Josue, that is exactly it. That is the definition of setting. Time and place in which the story occurs. All right, let's continue on. I'm checking.
By giving students a chance for multiple responses, they are retrieving, rehearsing, and practicing what has been taught, all reasons why students benefit from opportunities to respond. In this video, you saw multiple OTRs with a variation of whole group choral reading, whole group nonverbal gestures, peer-to-peer partner share, individual verbal response, and whole group choral response. When looking through the lens of acceleration, OTRs are a powerful tool because they increase student engagement, are an avenue to help students apply new skills taught just in time. They're a way to facilitate making connections to prior knowledge, and OTRs help to provide for an active, fast-paced, hands-on approach to learning for forward movement. All of these actions are essential to acceleration over remediation. Why is it important to provide students with multiple opportunities to respond? Research has shown many benefits, such as increased academic achievement, improved reading and math scores, and higher levels of student engagement. They help to increase student-teacher interactions and decrease off-task or disruptive behavior. As mentioned earlier, they are a key strategy to use to formatively assess learning and provide feedback, all of which is essential to accelerating learning. Take a moment to think about the amount of opportunities to respond you give your students during a typical lesson. Pause the video for a minute to jot down some notes on your personal reflection. This activity is an example of a written opportunity to respond. When having students reflect in the classroom, one way to have students share is to conduct a whip around. And having them share like this during in-person instruction, you would have them do so in a circular formation, and in a virtual setting, you can have students share following the order in which you see them in your screen grid, or you can use a virtual circle slide, which we will show you in just a moment. Whip around reflection is a verbal opportunity to respond that can easily be a written OTR as well, if you have the students write their reflection first. This slide can be used and shared on your screen in virtual instruction when asking students to share out during a whip around reflection or with other verbal OTRs. You would want to type student names in the boxes and move the talking piece, in this case the moon image, around to each box so students know when it is their turn to speak. 3 ways that teachers can use OTRs are to engage students individually or one at a time, as a whole group or unison response, or peer-to-peer small group. OTRs may require a verbal response, a nonverbal response, such as a gesture or movement, or a written response. Some OTRs encompass more than one type of response and more than one way to engage students. For example, a Think Right Pair Share has students complete a written response individually and a verbal response peer-to-peer. There's a process that helps with successful implementation of OTRs. For any OTR, after asking the question or giving the prompt, the most important step is to allow for sufficient wait time. The rule of thumb is to allow 3 to 5 seconds, but more may be needed depending on the complexity of the required response. Other important steps in the process include providing a cue for response and providing feedback to the student or students. There are some additional steps to facilitate peer-to-peer or small group interactions. Now let's look at some guidelines for instruction. When reviewing previous material, you should allow for 8 to 12 responses per minute with 90% accuracy. While that may seem like a lot, think back to the video we watched earlier. For new material, 4 to 6 responses per minute with 80% accuracy is the recommendation. Guidance from recent research says at least 3 opportunities to respond per minute during instruction. And in order to be successful, a very important guideline to follow is teacher talk should be no more than 40 to 50% of your instructional time.
We're going to take a look at the 3 types of responses we can get from students when giving them opportunities to respond. First, our verbal opportunities. This is when we want students to respond orally to the prompt or question. Notice here that we have provided some examples of verbal OTRs to get you thinking for both in-person and virtual learning. Looking at ideas for in-person, Rally Robin is where the students rally responses to a question back and forth. Find Someone Who is similar to a scavenger hunt where students walk around asking each other content-based questions. Virtually, you can have students physically raise their hand or use the raise hand option on your meeting platform for students to verbalize answers to prompts or questions. One example of a cooperative learning Kagan structure that could be used is stand and share. This is a verbal sharing of ideas generated based on the prompt or question the teacher has given. Note that when introducing a new engagement strategy, it is important to use non-academic content to model and let the students play around with the structure. Now let's check out the video modeling the OTR, Find Someone Who.
Find Someone Who is a teaching tool that you can use to review basic concepts at the end of a unit. The steps are you come up with some basic concepts from a unit, questions of varying levels of difficulty. So I choose questions that any student could answer, and then I find questions that only a couple of students could answer. Okay, there are 14 different things on here. Okay, and so what your job, and you can start at your own little table there, is your job is to find, every person in this room has to give you an answer and sign your sheet. So for example, number 1 says, find someone who can write the formula for force. So I don't want anyone to call out right now, but let's say that Jesus knows how to do it. Okay, he'll take Johnny's paper, he will write his answer here, and he'll sign it here. I make it competitive to see who can finish first, so they always like a competition. I like it because it's interactive, so the students are talking about the concepts. It makes students feel good that they know something, and it allows them to learn from their peers and share, and it allows them to ask questions to each other that they may not want to ask in front of the entire class.
Nonverbal strategies have every student actively responding by using a signal, card, or movement to respond to the prompt or question. Among the examples we have provided for you for in-person learning are 4 corners and human body graphs. In 4 corners, students are given 4 answer choices, each designated to 1 corner. The students signal their answer by moving to the corner they choose for the answer. Notice that 4 corners can also be done in virtual learning. The image shown here is a Jamboard template that offers a way to place 4 answers in each corner, and the students simply put their name on a sticky note and place in their corresponding corner. Another in-person option that involves movement is a human body graph. Students use their bodies to show answers to the questions or prompts given. Article coding is also a nonverbal OTR where students can code or annotate a text that has been read to demonstrate their learning. Here you would base the codes and the meaning of them on the alignment with the standard you are teaching. Let's check out the Four Corners video to see it in action.
Okay, first find the ones place and then you can figure it out. Find the ones place. Four Corners works where you set up anything you want in 4 different corners of your room. For example, rounding numbers, you can put 4 different quantities in each corner. Throw a number on the board and ask the kids, let's round it to the nearest 10. And so the kids have to reflect on their notes, think about what they might know or might not know, and then walk to the corner that they think is the correct answer. Lisette, do you think you rounded it? Yeah. Okay, go walk to your corner. I see some students under 70, okay. From our corners, let's take a look. What's in the ones place? A 1. Is 1 a strong number or is it weak? Weak. It's weak. So it becomes what number? The 0. That's right. It's 60. And we keep it at 60. So the correct rounding is 60. Just a good, simple, quick way to get kids out of their seat and to just reflect on their thinking. It's really just a formative assessment that we can give to children. Real simple, and you can use it in just about any situation.
Written opportunities to respond are the third way to get student responses. This is where students would be responsible to write their thoughts and answers based on the prompt or question. Some in-person examples include graffiti wall and jot thoughts. Graffiti wall operates like a silent conversation where the students respond their answers on chart paper, and then their peers respond to each other based on how they answered the prompt or question, giving feedback. For jot thoughts, students get a set of Post-its and are asked within a given time limit to come up with as many ideas to the prompt or question as possible. For the virtual learning environment, graffiti wall and jot thoughts can both be used within Jamboard, utilizing the sticky notes. Notice the image of the completed graffiti wall where the 3 students posted their original answers to the question, and then they gave their peers feedback. Jot thoughts would work similarly in that they would use the interactive sticky notes to come up with as many ideas as possible. Listen Write is another written OTR that can be done in both learning environments. After the teacher has conducted a mini lesson, the students write key points and share with their partner. The teacher then reviews those key points, the partners celebrate, and the process continues as the teacher chunks the content throughout instruction. Remember, when you're introducing these new engagement strategies, it is important to start with non-academic content to model. Also note, at the end of this presentation, you have access through the bit.ly link to the direction slides and more information that is linked in the title of each engagement strategy. Now let's take a look at how Jot Thoughts looks in the classroom.
In this episode, we're going to take a look at the structure called Jot Thoughts. Taking a look at the goals for this structure, the structure mainly focuses on team building and information sharing. Here's how this structure works. Students are given 1 set of Post-it notes per base group. The teacher names a given topic and gives a time limit. Topics could range from name as many presidents as you can in 1 minute, or brainstorm as many equations as you can think of that equal 17. Students verbally brainstorm as many ideas as they can in that time limit, and there is 1 recorder at the time who's going to capture an idea on a Post-it and place that Post-it on the desk. As soon as they capture 1 idea from the group's brainstorm, they pass those Post-its to the next recorder. Let's take a look at this in action. Here a base group is brainstorming steps to take to complete a project. After the recorder captures 1 idea from the group, the Post-its are passed, and a new recorder takes another idea from the group and places that in the middle. This pattern continues on until the base group has run out of time or collected all of the ideas.
You have learned a lot about opportunities to respond. So let's use a nonverbal OTR to assess your understanding. We're going to participate in take off touchdown. For this strategy, you will agree or disagree with a statement. If you agree, you will take off or stand up. If you disagree, you will touch down or sit down until the last statement is made. When using this strategy, there is not verbal communication other than the teacher reading the statements. The rationale and discussion are saved for the end. Now let's try it. Get ready to stand and sit. Remember, if you agree, you will take off. If you disagree, you will touch down. Statement number 1. Individual, whole group, and peer-to-peer are 3 ways to engage students with OTRs. So if you agreed with this statement, you would be standing. If you disagree, you would remain seated. Statement 2. Over half of the instructional time should be teacher talk. Again, if you agree, you would have stood up or remained standing. If you disagreed, you would have sit down or remained seated. Statement 3. By giving a chance for multiple responses, students are retrieving, rehearsing, and practicing what has been taught. Statement 4. By providing OTRs, a teacher can formatively assess student learning and provide feedback. Statement 5. When giving students OTRs, it is not necessary to provide wait time. Here are the rationales for the agree and disagree from takeoff touchdown. When doing this strategy in class after the activity, this can provide some rich discussion. Notice the first statement was an agreement. These are 3 ways of engaging students: individual, whole group, and peer-to-peer. The second was disagree. The teacher talk should actually be less than or right at half of the instructional time. The third was agree. Recent research suggests that having 3 OTRs per minute does allow retrieving, practicing, and rehearsing. And then the fourth statement was also agree. The student response should allow the teacher to formatively assess and give that specific feedback. And then the final statement was disagree. Wait time is very imperative to all students being able to participate in an opportunity to respond. One tip for classroom management within this strategy is to start with a first statement that most students would agree with, which would allow them to stand, and then to end on a statement that you believe most students would disagree in order to have them seated to continue on with your lesson.
We have provided you with some additional OTR examples for both in-person and virtual instruction. And these are a variety of types, whether it be individual, whole group, peer-to-peer, or verbal, nonverbal, or written. Please click the underlined words that link to videos and/or directions for more information. In any classroom, the teacher should be aware of certain considerations regarding the environment or learning community that they are helping to create. Knowing the backgrounds or cultural norms for students within the classroom will lead to more engaging and effective instructional practice. Research we discussed earlier reinforced the use of multiple opportunities to respond to re-engage students and aid in acceleration of learning, but they also are essential to having a culturally responsive classroom. Giving students opportunities to respond, especially with dialogue, validating their contributions, and providing them with feedback helps to remove barriers and move learning forward. In classrooms where ECE students are present, use of opportunities to respond with your students should occur more often based upon the needs of the learners there. Planning for and providing multiple means of engagement, especially OTRs, coupled with feedback is one means to accelerate learning. Using OTRs to formatively assess and adjust instruction to provide additional support and scaffolds where needed is a cornerstone to quality instruction with all students, but especially ECE students. When considering project-based learning, feedback is critical to student success, both from the teacher to the student and from student to the teacher. Opportunities to respond is one tool that can be used to gather feedback and to identify areas where structured supports and explicit instruction are needed. Incorporating OTRs with deeper learning and PBLs will help to re-engage students and accelerate learning. To end on a somewhat funny note, but with a serious message, we need to consider opportunities to respond for re-engaging and accelerating students during our instruction. Using opportunities to respond can help us to avoid having a classroom situation similar to the one pictured in this comic. Please refer to this slide for references you might need. Don't forget there are many resources linked throughout these presentation slides that can be accessed by clicking on underlined words. If you would like more information about the MTSS toolkits and other high-yield practices, please visit our department website. Thanks for attending our session about opportunities to respond. Have a great day.